Arrays. Arrays are really cool. Arrays are our first data structure, and they're very, very common. And you've already seen it being used a little bit. Well, you've seen it being declared in the main method, but we haven't yet used one. So an array is basically just a collection of variables of the same type referred to by a common name. So let's look at, like, this is a nice visual of an array. Basically, it's almost like buckets, or basically a collection of data. Each one is at its own index. And the important thing to remember with arrays is that the index always starts at 0. So even though this array has 10 elements in it, the indexes are 0 through 9, 9 being the last one, because when we're dealing with indexes and arrays, things of the like, the counting always starts from 0. So let's take a quick peek at some arrays. Okay, so let's let's create an example here of some arrays. So this is starting to look pretty redundant, I bet, with the public static void main, which is perfect. So here we already have an array, but we'll come back to that. So I'm going to go ahead and just create an array. There's a couple different things to know about an array. When you declare an array, you say the data type. So this is going to be an int and then square brackets, which means array. And then I'm going to call this int array equals new int array. And this is built into Java, right? So we're not going to go into the constructor. This is something that happens behind the scenes. Like, we don't have control over the int array constructor. When you're using an array, you have to define the length of that array. Arrays are not dynamically sized. They're fixed length, right? So I could say that this length is going to have an array of, let's go shorter for right now, an array of a length of 5, meaning it can hold 5 elements, and it will only ever be able to hold 5 elements unless I create a new array and copy the values of this array into it. So the way that we use arrays and access arrays is through indexes. So I'm going to say int array at the index of 0 equals 97. And int array, let's copy this, make it quicker. Int array at the index of 1 will equal 17. Int array at the index of 2 will equal 56. Int array at the index of 3 will equal 14, and int array at the index of 4 will equal, how about 39. So now I have created an array, and at any time now I can say system.out.println int array at the index, for instance, of 3, and it'll run, and it'll give me 14. And remember that this is a length of 5, and the indexes are 0 through 4, which is 5 elements. One of the most common ways that we iterate through arrays is with a for loop, right? So here I can say for int I equal 0, while I is less than int array dot length, which is going to return 5, and then I plus plus, I'll say sout int array at the index, square brackets, at the index of I. Now when I run this, it'll print all of them out, and I can add a little bit. So how about the array at the index of plus I, I'm just going to the new line, plus is plus int array at the index of I. And that's just me concatenating the strings together, because I is a variable right here from this for loop, and int array obviously is an array. So now when I run this again, it'll say the array at the index of 0 is 97, or how about the array value at the index, the array value at the index of 0 is 97, at the index of 1 is 17, at the index of 2 is 56, because I'm looping through this, and I'm just printing out the value of int array at the index of I. And I it starts at 0, and then it goes to 1, and then it goes to 2, and it goes to 3, and it goes to 4. And then when it goes to 5, I will no longer be less than array.length, which is 5, so it'll stop looping, right? What else is there about arrays? So you can't say, for instance, int array equals 39.9, because 39.9 is not an int, right? So arrays are not dynamically typed. Like, you can't put multiple different data types in them. You can't change their length. Neat thing about arrays is that they're random access. Like I showed you, you can say system.println int array at the index of 4, right? You can access any value at any index of the array at any time. There's another way that we can, so sometimes you'll see this. It's called the alternative array declaration syntax. So instead of declaring the length right here, what you actually do is put a, what is it, like this, and then you say like 23, 34, 21. What am I doing wrong? There we go. So, and this is not that common. This is like, it's great for prototypes and, you know, just playing around. But normally you're getting your arrays from third-party sources like APIs or databases, or this is, you know, kind of incoming data, and you don't just know the values, but you can declare an array. So what I did right there is just to show you the comparison. I'll undo some of this stuff. So I can do, I can create an array like that where I just declare the array and its length, and then I put in each value. Or if I already know the values, I can say like int array 2 equals new, and then in curly brackets, you just put the values like 23, 12, 43, 6, 6, 8. And then I could just say, for instance, out int array 2 at the index of 2. And that also works. And this is called the alternative array declaration syntax. But the vast majority of the time, it looks a lot more like this, where you have an array that's declared with a fixed length, and then you populate the values, or you know, the values are populated. You get values from some third-party source, and that's what you populate the array with. What else? Array.length at any time. It's very, very helpful in for loops, as I mentioned. So you know, you could have a method, and I'll demonstrate this real quick. Let's say that, look, all of this, and I'm just making this static so that I can quickly and easily call it from a main method, which is also static. I'll say print array, and it's going to take in an int array called vals. And I'm just going to say for int I equals 0. I can do this. Well, I don't have the for loop anymore. I was going to say I could have the same for loop with int I in both methods because they're in different scopes. They don't overlap. While I is less than vals dot length I plus plus, and then I'll just say sout vals at the index of I. So now, no matter how long, no matter how big the array is that gets passed in here, it will print all the values in it. Whether it's got a length of 2, it'll print those 2 values. Whether it's got a length of 26,000, it'll print all 26,000. So the dot length variable is super useful in when you're looping and iterating over arrays. And what else? What else about arrays? The square brackets. So technically, you can put these here or here. I very much personally prefer to put them on the data type because it's the way I read it. So it's int array, and then the name of the array, which in this case is called int array. But you'll see some people in some places putting the square brackets on the array name rather than the data type. So this would be, but it works both ways. 100% of the time I put my square brackets on the data type.